I was standing on my parents' front porch with a lemon cake in my hands when I heard my mother say my name. My knuckles were half raised to knock, and her voice carried clean through the screen door. She was telling my brother not to worry about his debt. "We'll have your sister cover it," she said. "She never refuses family." I never did get to ring that bell. What I did in the 7 days after that afternoon, and what my mother's face did when she finally knocked on my door, is the part I still turn over at night. I'm Kendra. I'm 34. This is the week my family found out that the daughter who never said no finally learned how. Drop a comment and subscribe. I should have just knocked. Instead, I stood there while the cake got warm in my hands and listened. Travis was talking first, low and miserable, collectors calling his cell. Brooke scared, no idea how he'd make it through the month. My mother Sharon made her soft clucking sound. "Don't stress about the debt, baby. We'll have your sister cover it." A pause. My father's small grunt of agreement. Nobody was going to ask me. This wasn't a request not yet made. It was a decision already made about money I'd earned, without anyone thinking they needed my voice in the room. I set the cake down on the top step, walked back to my car, and drove home with both hands on the wheel, doing the only thing my mind knows how to do when it's afraid. Counting. I'm a bookkeeper. I keep the ledgers for 3 small businesses in town: a hardware store, a dental office, a landscaping outfit. People think numbers are cold. I think numbers are the most honest thing in the world. Numbers don't sigh at you across a kitchen table. They just sit there and tell you the truth. And the truth is usually that someone took more than they put back, quietly, over years, while calling it love. I learned to keep books before I learned to drive. I was 16 when the plant let my father go in 2009, and the bills started coming in faster than anyone in that house wanted to look at them. My mother couldn't face the envelopes. My father just stopped opening the mail. So I started a notebook. I wrote down what came in and what went out. I called the electric company and set up a payment plan in a voice I made sound older than I was. Somewhere in there, without anyone ever saying it out loud, I became the one who handled things, the fixer, the responsible one, the daughter you could hand a problem to and trust it would get solved quietly, without drama. It became who I was, the role that fit so well nobody, including me, thought to ask if I ever wanted it. And the trouble with becoming the person who never says no is that everyone around you stops being able to imagine you saying it. By the time I got home, I already knew the cold number. Daniel and I had $61,000 saved. I'm telling you the exact figure because it matters. Not family money, not a windfall, not an inheritance. 11 years of 2 people who packed their own lunches, an electrician and a bookkeeper, saved the boring way, a little at a time in an account I balanced every month. Most of it wasn't even really ours in the way that mattered to my heart. Daniel and I had been trying to have a baby for 4 years, through 2 rounds of IVF that didn't take, and the bulk of that $61,000 was the 3rd round, the appointment we hadn't scheduled yet because I kept flinching at the cost. The maybe baby we were still saving toward, dollar by careful dollar. So when I stood on that porch and heard my mother promise my brother's debt away, using my account like it was a community fund, she wasn't reaching for my savings. She was reaching for the child we hadn't had yet. I don't think she knew that. I want to be fair, even now, I don't think Sharon sat there doing the math on what that money was for. But that's almost worse, isn't it? She didn't even need to know what she was taking. She just assumed it was hers to take. Daniel was home when I got there, no cake in my hands, and read my face before I said a word. I told him everything. The porch, the screen door, the line. He listened without interrupting, then said, calm as tracing a short in old wiring. So here's what we do. The savings account is the exposure. As long as it's sitting where your family knows it sits, it might as well have a sign on it. Open a new account in your name only, at a bank none of them use, and start moving it tonight. Not next week. Tonight. Move every penny. He didn't take it over. He handed me the idea, made me tea, and let me think like myself again. The first call came the next morning. My mother is sweetest right before she asks for something. She circled toward Travis's rough patch, mentioned we'd always been the steady ones, then landed the hook. I was thinking about that account you and I still have together from your grandmother's care. We should sit down about that. I'd genuinely forgotten it existed. The fact that she hadn't told me she'd been thinking about my money for a while. She had a map of it, and there was a door on that map I'd left unlocked years ago. Travis showed up 2 days later, uninvited, drank my coffee, and told me the long story of the failed bar our parents had co-signed, plus another debt from something he almost called blackjack before catching himself. $48,000 in the hole. "You've got it good, Ken," he said, like my stability was something I'd stolen from him. My phone buzzed with a text from Brooke, timed like she'd been waiting. "Family helps family. Hope you're not too busy with your IVF stuff to remember that." I put the phone face down and said nothing, because I'd already decided what I was going to do, and it wasn't going to happen at my kitchen table. I decided not to fight them, not out of fear, but because I knew exactly how a fight with my mother goes. She cries, someone storms out, and a week later you're the bad guy who made her cry. A fight was a game they knew how to win. Numbers were a game I knew how to win. I wasn't going to argue. I was going to reconcile, turn every loose, manipulative claim into something with a date and a dollar sign, move the money where it belonged, close every door I had a right to close, and build a clean, undeniable record of everything this family had ever taken and never given back. The next morning, I opened an account at a credit union across town that nobody in my family had ever used. Then I moved the money in daylight, a little at a time, every transfer dated and labeled, because the person with the cleanest paper trail wins every argument before it starts. My mother's voice kept circling in my head. She never refuses family. And for the first time, I wondered whether love had ever gone the other direction, or whether love had just been the word they used for the bill they handed me. The savings were safe by Thursday, but a joint account from my grandmother's care, opened in 2016, never closed after she passed in 2019, still nagged at me. I called the bank Friday. A joint account belongs equally to both owners. I could pull my own contributions but couldn't close it alone. It was the one door I couldn't slam by myself, and it showed me exactly how smart Daniel's advice had been. She still had a key to that room, and I'd spent the week emptying every other room she didn't. That weekend, I pulled the long record nobody but me had ever kept. Every transfer I'd ever sent them, going back years. $600 for a car payment, $1,200 for the bar's lease, $400 at Christmas, $2,000 for a deposit. Laid out in a column, it stopped looking like love and started looking like a subscription that auto-renewed every time someone ran short. Not $1 had ever come back. My mother called again, sweetness with a little iron under it, suggesting we just keep that joint account open, handy for family things. Then, when that didn't land fast enough, reached for my grandmother. She'd be so sad to see this family pulling apart over money, after everything I did caring for her. I'd been the one who drove Grandma to chemo, kept the account, sat with her on bad nights, and here was my mother using her as a chess piece in a conversation really about $48,000. "I have to go, Mom. I love you." And I did. That was the awful part. That night, I finished moving every dollar that was mine into the credit union she'd never heard of. What remained in the joint account was a little over $3,000, almost all of it money she'd actually put in herself. I left it there. I didn't take a dime that wasn't mine. That would have made me the ungrateful daughter who stole in her story. My mother didn't know any of this had happened. Her whole plan, the sweetness, the grandmother, the handy joint account, rested on an assumption that had quietly stopped being true. Up in the attic, I found an old shoebox with MISC on the lid in my teenage handwriting. Carbon checks, receipts, old printouts, and near the bottom, folded in quarters, a promissory note. Travis had written it in 2017 when I gave him $4,500 to keep the bar's lights on. I, Travis Mercer, owe my sister Kendra $4,500 to be paid back when the bar turns a profit. Signed, Big and Sure. The bar never turned a profit. The money never came back. I built a ledger, clean, dated, backed by stubs. Every dollar I'd given this family since 2014, its purpose, and whether it was ever repaid. The repaid column read the same number all the way down, 0. The total? $26,400, never acknowledged, while my mother told my brother in her kitchen that I'd cover his debt too, because I never refuse family. I printed 2 copies, stapled and dated, and understood what I held wasn't a weapon, it was a mirror. Brooke escalated first, texting late that I was selfish, that real family helps without keeping score, and that it was rich of me to hoard money for, her words, a baby that might not even happen. I read it 3 times, screenshotted it, dated it, and didn't reply. Love and money, I was learning, keep separate books. My father called Sunday, which he almost never does, and told me more than he meant to, that my mother had grown up in a house the bank took when she was 9, that she'd watched a man change the locks, and had spent her life since then terrified of a family losing its place over money. It moved me, genuinely. Then, in the same gentle voice, he said, "So you'll help your brother, you always do." Not a question. Even my father had learned to count on it. Monday morning, my mother's text turned brisk. "We're going to come by Saturday so we can settle all this as a family. I'll bring everyone." An ambush, scheduled and catered. She knew the math of a crowd, knew the girl who couldn't refuse them one-on-one would find it harder to refuse them all at once. A year earlier, it would have worked. I wrote back, "See you Saturday," and started getting ready, not with apologies, but with the truth, sorted and stapled. I spent the week organizing the folder in sequence. The ledger with its $26,400, Travis's promissory note, the screenshots, dated, the bank's explanation of the joint account. Daniel asked if I wanted him there Saturday. Just to be in the room, a steady witness. He never once tried to take it from me. Thursday, the bank called. There'd been activity on the joint account, an attempted withdrawal, but only $3,200 was there to move. My mother had gone to the branch herself. She'd reached for the one room she had a key to and found it nearly empty, because I'd spent the week quietly carrying the furniture out the back. Travis called Friday night, panic dressed as anger. The collectors were calling Brooke's mother now. They'd come after the truck. I was going to blow us all up over money you don't even need. Then, almost as an afterthought, "It's not even your money to keep. It's family money. It always was." There it was, the whole philosophy of my life, said out loud by my baby brother. "Good night, Travis. I'll see you tomorrow." I slept better than I had in weeks. At midnight, my mother finally put a number on it in writing. "Your brother needs $48,000. Family doesn't let each other drown. We'll sort out the account when we're all together tomorrow. I know you'll do the right thing. You always do." I saved it. For 34 years, the right thing and the bill had been the same sentence. I was starting to understand they weren't. Saturday morning, I decided I would not raise my voice. I would tell the truth with the paper in front of them, and I would give my mother her $3,200 back in cash, in an envelope, so there could never be a story that I'd taken her money. The win wasn't getting one over on them. It was standing on my own floor and telling them the truth, steady, and refusing, and meaning it. Daniel had the envelope ready, labeled Moms, in his blocky electrician's print, next to the folder on the table. "You've got this," he said, and took the corner chair, coffee in hand, saying nothing, exactly as promised. Cars in the driveway, then a second one. Doors opening, voices, my mother's carrying the way it always does, footsteps on my porch, a knock. I opened the door and they came in like they owned the place, which in their minds they sort of did. My mother first, in her good coat, face arranged into warmth, arms half open like this was a happy occasion. "Kendra, honey, thank you for having us. I know this has been hard, but this is what families do. We come together." She settled onto my couch like she was hosting. My father lowered himself onto the very edge of the love seat, as far from the center as the geometry of my living room allowed. Travis took the armchair, jaw tight, not meeting my eye. Brooke perched on its arm, phone in hand, chin up, pricing my furniture with the same appraising glance her husband had given my kitchen 2 weeks before. Daniel was already in the corner chair by the window, coffee in hand, saying nothing exactly as promised. I stayed standing. I want you to picture that, because it mattered, and I didn't plan it, it just happened. They all arranged themselves into a jury, and I stayed on my feet in my own home, the folder on the table beside me. We just need to handle this as a family, my mother said again, patting the cushion, inviting me down to their level, back into my old place in the arrangement. I didn't sit. Okay, I said, let's handle it. And I reached for the folder. She launched into it exactly as she'd rehearsed. Travis in real trouble, collectors. The simplest thing is for us to move it today. Travis can pay it back when he's on his feet. Brooke. It's what real family does. You don't sit there counting. Then my mother delivered the line I'd heard through a screen door 2 weeks earlier, now to my face, patting my hand. Don't make this complicated, sweetheart. You never refuse family. I set the folder on the table and opened it. Before we move anything, I think everyone should see where the money actually is. First page. This is the savings account. It's mostly empty. I moved it 2 weeks ago, the day after I came by with a cake and heard you tell Travis you'd have me cover his debt. Her smile stiffened like ice before it cracks. Second page. This is the joint account, Mom, the one you went to the bank about Thursday. It's got $3,200 in it, almost all of it yours. I left every penny exactly where it was, because none of it is mine to take. I set the cash envelope on top, then the ledger. Every dollar I've given this family since 2014, dated with whether it ever came back. My finger ran down the repaid column, 0, 0, 0. Then Travis's promissory note. You signed it as a joke. I kept it because I keep everything. $26,400. That's what I've already covered. Nobody ever asked. Nobody ever paid it back. For a moment, nobody moved, and then my mother rallied one last time. After everything I sacrificed, you're going to turn your back on your own brother. You never refuse family. And I looked at her, the frightened girl from the lawn, grown into the woman on my couch, and felt all of it, the love and the grief and 34 years of it. Then I said, quiet and even, family isn't a bill you forgot to pay, something owed simply because you were born into it. It's not a credit line you draw on because someone's too tired to say no. I love you. I love all of you. But love is not the same thing as access. I let a breath go. So this once, I refuse. The room exploded. My mother came off the couch shouting, her face gone red. Travis was on his feet swearing, telling me I'd always thought I was better than them. Brooke started filming, narrating her own outrage for whatever audience she imagined. The noise filled my little living room. I didn't shout back, didn't cry, didn't plead, didn't reach for them. I'd said my one word, and now it didn't need defending. It just needed me to stand still and let them be the ones who came apart. It was my mother, mid-shout, who finally did the math. Her eyes went to the first page, to the date at the top. You moved it, she said, the wind going out of her all at once. Before you ever came over. You knew. I heard you through the screen door, I said. I went home and my husband told me to move every penny that night. So I did. They left soon after. My mother swept out first. Travis slammed the door hard enough to rattle the frame. At the door, my father paused, and I pressed the envelope into his hands. Mom's. $3,200. Every cent hers. That part was always hers. He nodded once and went to the car. Travis never got his $48,000. He and Brooke lost the apartment a month later and moved back into his old room at my parents' house, which strikes me as its own kind of justice nobody had to engineer. My mother didn't speak to me for almost 4 months, and when she finally did, it was a short, stiff call about a cousin's wedding. no apology in it, because an apology would have meant admitting there'd been a wrong, and Sharon will go to her grave before she does that. I let the call stay short. I didn't chase it. A few months after Saturday, she signed the paperwork to close the joint account herself, the one door I couldn't close alone, and just like that, the last lock came off, and the house was finally, fully mine. Daniel and I started our third round of IVF that spring, the money right where we'd left it, every careful dollar, the maybe baby still possible because the well hadn't run dry. I still keep the folder in a drawer. I don't need to look at it. I'd spent my whole life being the account everyone drew on. It turned out the most loving thing I ever did for any of us was to finally, gently close it. Love does not mean signing a blank check with your whole life on the line. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for the people you love, and for yourself, is to keep your own honest books, and finally let the word no balance the page. If you've been carrying a whole family on one quiet account of your own, maybe it's time to open one that's just yours. Share this with someone who needs to hear that no is allowed, and subscribe because there's always another door coming.